Alright guys, welcome to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Rebuild, restore, repair, refurbish. Whatever you'd like to call it. Got the cabinet laying down on its side. Got my guides for the back of the laminate. I got my assistant for rolling out the glue because, you know, it does it very precise. So, alright. I'm gonna flip this over so the back's facing upward. I'm gonna tape off a area that's a little oversized for the cabinet so we can get it on the cabinet and without wasting a bunch of glue. And then we'll get it on there, get it rolled out, and get it cut off. I'm gonna do single coat, back for a second, back for a second, let it air dry, then lay it out. Then roll the entire side with this roller right here. Ballet Sente. Yep. This cabinet's gonna be something one day. Surprise! Alright, so the cabinet here has two coats. The laminate here has two coats. We're gonna sit and let this gas off some and dry up. Then we'll bring the sheet over, lay it here in my slots, make sure we got enough to cover the bottom, and let it lay over. I'll hurry up and push it down by hand, pull these off, and then take my router and go around and cut around the outside dimensions of the cabinet. Then we'll take the roller and roll it out flat. I like to cut off the excess because this stuff is super brittle. And if you would happen to be rolling across it and go over the edge, I'd be afraid to split it and crack it. So I do like to cut the excess off before I roll it. So that should be it, guys. We'll wait about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And it should be dry and tacky enough to go ahead and stick. The reason why you want to wait for it to dry is that's how it's designed. And when you get a big flat spot like this, I've read, and I don't know how true this is, but it makes sense to me, that if you put it on when it's still like this, it's trying to, it won't be able to gas off. So therefore it never really bonds. Does that make sense? Or the bond can be compromised because of the slow gassing off of the vapors, I guess. Research that, guys. See if I'm right. Alright, fellers. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 has now got its new side covers. Now, it's been colder here. You know, it is getting to the end of October. So today was like 70, 72 or something like that. And it's supposed to get down into high 50s. And then back in tomorrow about 70, mid 70s, and then down into the 60s, I think. So I'm gonna let this sit for these 2 days and let that cement cure up a little bit before I start handling this cabinet around. don't know if you guys are catching the thickness on the side of that. I'm sure that, I think that's 24 thousandths thick. So I buy this online. If anyone's interested, I could maybe take a screenshot of the place, but I'm buying these sheets for 19 bucks a piece. And then I take that back. By the time it's shipped, you can get 4 sheets shipped in one box. And it is about $100 to get 4 sheets shipped. So this cool white, made by 918 products or 981 products, something like that. They're about 25 bucks a piece when they're shipped. So I bought my first 2 at Carter Lumber. I paid over $200 for 2 sheets of the same stuff, made by a different company. So yeah, guys, if you're wanting to put some laminate on, you know what, I'll just get that name in the next clip. I'll come on with it on, and you guys can check it out, and then you'll know. Alright guys, 909 surface laminate, 102 bright white, vertical, 24 thousandths thick, 4x8 sheets, 1664 piece. I haven't had any problems with them, other than if you don't handle them right, they, you know, shatter if you let them bend too much, like too hard, if you get what I'm saying. But up at the top here you see woodworkersexpress.com. It's a legitimate site. I've ordered from I think 3 times now, maybe 4. I get it within a week. They can only ship 4 sheets in one box, so to maximize your shipping cost, it probably would be best to buy 4 sheets. If you order 6, they're going to ship it in 2 boxes, 4 sheets in one and 2 in the other. So do what you want with that information. They do have other colors like black and stuff like that in this 909 surface 24 thousandths, but I like to use the white. So give it a check out. Like I said, when I bought 2 sheets at Carter Lumber, it was over $200. I can buy 4 for half that price. It's just honestly the same damn thing. Alright guys, took a ride to the Home Depot. Got me a sheet of plywood they cut in half for me so I could fit it in the van. So I got a new piece of wood now. And this time I'm going to, you know, measure twice and cut once. Somehow I got a centimeter off last time. I don't know if I got sidetracked and thought it was the number I set the saw up for or what happened. But anyways, it was short. So let's make this one right. Alright guys, so got a new door made. So show you what's up next. Alright guys, Gonna drill these 4 holes for, you know, the metal pieces. Gonna drill the lock hole. Gonna drill that 5/8 bit through the center of these. I'll put another clamp on this side, flip it around so I can poke my bit through there and trace these holes out with the router. So that's what's going to be going on. Before I actually do the routing, I'll come on and give you a peek of it. Bottom door slats, whatever you call them. Holes pre-drilled for the router bit to come through. Lock hole drilled. And no, I didn't drill these. I don't like them plates on there. I'm not putting it on there. If anyone ever buys this cabinet afterwards and they're concerned about that, they can put it on. Alright guys, so here's the screen that's going to cover these holes I'm cutting out. I was able to get it off the old door, unstapled from the old door without breaking anything. So here's your lock hole, your you know, those paddles that stick down, and then you can put my bit through here, start cutting the wood until the bearing hits the pattern of the door underneath, and just route around. Alright, that's what I'm working on. Alright, so you guys can see it's basically just a perfect replica or whatever was underneath. Alright, back door is complete, ready for primer and then paint. I'll have to install the little metal piece for the lock, and obviously the metal piece is in the screen, but the piece of wood is ready for primer and paint. So moving on now, I'm going to lay this cabinet on its side now. I'm very satisfied with the way that the laminate came out. It's nice and solid. I've given it a few days to you know, cure up underneath here and stuff, and just hang out there and do its thing. I need to lay this on its side, and then I'm gonna kind of sand the perimeter, like, you know, like this, because this stuff, when you cut it, it's super sharp. So I kind of I don't want to cut my fingers, guys. So I'm gonna round it over a hair. It's still going to be square, don't get me wrong, it just won't have that sharpness to it. So I'm gonna do that, and while the one side's facing up, I'm gonna take the and recut this groove right here that we bondoed in. I got something, I'm working up a plan for that, so when I get to that point, I'll come on and explain what my theory is with the router, and then well, we'll see how it works. Maybe I'll bring out the tripod so I can put my theory in action, or my tool that I'm building. Alright, so my theory is I am gonna, this ain't the piece of wood, but just for sakes, or so you can understand what I'm doing here. I've had my best router jobs when I do it on a table. I can't bring this cabinet to a table and run it on a table, so I'm gonna bring the table to the cabinet. I'm gonna mount my router on this board, okay? Now, one big thing that I find when I'm routing a T-molding groove is when you set your router, alright, so if your router's sitting on that board, and you are setting your router so it can come into the groove like this, and you get it perfectly centered, okay? and it's just cutting beautiful. And then you would turn this around and cut it this way. I don't know why, but it'll be off. It shouldn't be. Maybe I just have cheap ass tools, but it will be off. So when I'm routing around here freehand, first of all, it's freehand, and I got about a 3-inch ledge I'm trying to keep on the cabinet. And if I start turning the router to make it easier to go around the corners, T-molding grooves can come off. Or I get it tilted and it'll start cutting wrong. It's a disaster. So I want to mount it to a board like this, so I can literally bring it in here, pull it in, use my hand out here and here, and I can keep weight on here so it can't tilt this way, that way, this way, that way. I think me having some support way out here on the cabinet with something solid as I'm dragging it around, and then I know I set it across this backside, so I can you know, always remember, you know, that's where it was measured from, and that's where it needs to cut from. And then I can do that around these corners because it's stabilized by this board. Because that's where you'll get your wobbling and tilting. So that's my theory. I don't know if it'll work. It might be a effing disaster, but we're going to find out. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so here's my 3 bolts. It's going to hold the base on. I'm going to put like a piece of 2x4 handle here. That'll give me something else to grab. That'll also help keep this from warping. So I borrowed a little thing from the famous Todd Tuckey. So I'm going to call this the T-mold slot cut. The T-mold slot cutter a go-go. Keeping her flat. Alright, so that's what this is. I named this tool. So we're going to test it out. Alright, found this nut in my extra bolts bin. I'm going to use it for a spacer. Now, one important thing, at least for a slot cutter, if you're trying to space it down to cut in an area like that and not grind the bottom of your shaft into the wood, so you're going to want to push everything this way as far as you can. So I found a nut that gives me about the right spacing. The biggest thing that you have to look for is that it's not bigger in diameter than the bearing, because the bearing is what's going to guide it along the wood. So if it would stick out past the bearing, then it's going to dig into the wood before the bearing gets to it. So if you ever do any trickery like this on any of your tools, well, a slot cutter bit anyways, make sure any of your spacers are smaller than the bearing. Alright, so I did some cutting on some scrap pieces of wood. When I was gliding it across the piece of scrap wood, it felt like there wasn't really any drag from the vibration. It almost glid across like a air hockey puck. I mean, not, you know, it just felt like there was lubrication underneath there. You know, you could feel like it wasn't dragging. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to cut at least this up part until I get into that turn. And then I'm, you know, depending on how it feels while I'm turning it or moving it around, I'll let you know if it's a well worth thing. I mean, like, look, it's just sitting there. It felt real nice when I would pull it into the scrap pieces. It just would pull right in and sit there. You could even shut it off while it was still in the groove, and it just slowed down and stopped. Not no chipping or cutting anything up or tearing shit up. All right, let's try it. All right, guys. So I have a report to make here. I will never, ever cut T-molding slots again without that. Amazing. Just makes me kind of sad I didn't ever do that before. My cord's getting caught up. Can't be having that. Alright guys, so you see I was just guiding that through there with one hand. So I'm gonna use two hands now and go around these corners. And, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. Alright fellas, check it out. T-molding slots are cut. See down in here? Always take something and run through here and dig out that dust. Because when I primer this and I paint it, there will be some paint and primer that goes in here. And then it seals it in there. And when you're trying to tap in your T-molding and there's a spot it won't go in, that'll be why. Make sure you clean them out. I wanted to point that out. But I have it up on milk crates now, guys. You know what that means. So I think I have enough clips for a little bit of a video here. I also drilled out the monitor bracket holes. Make sure when you're drilling through this kind of stuff, you put a backing board up against it, so when you come through, it doesn't splinter and shatter your covering there. Laminate. See, perfect. Holes down there too for the brackets. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for this video. So I'll be working on the next one. So like, subscribe, share, and shit like that. Alright. Sorry. Peace.